Hello everyone, welcome to my sketch talk for the MLP movie. I'm just going to be giving some thoughts on the movie as a whole while having this drawing I did of Tempest being speeded up for you in the background. Oh, and viewer beware, spoilers are ahead. So first off, I'm gonna say right now that I thought the movie was, overall, just okay. While there wasn't anything outstandingly awful about it, there weren't many things I thought were super great either. Well, except for the animation. In fact, I'm actually going to start with that. The animation of the MLP movie was easily the best part of the whole thing. From what I've heard, this is partially due to the move from Flash to Toon Boom, as well as, of course, a much higher budget. While the new medium does bring with it some strange style choices, ultimately it's incredibly smooth and a treat to watch. There are some character motions and expressions that just look so fantastic you want to watch them again and again. The way the movie starts with the Pegasi flying was a great testament to this. The ponies feel more like three-dimensional characters in comparison to their Flash counterparts, though I could argue that such a flat, wonderfully stylized Flash puppet style is what gave the ponies their charm in the first place. This is incredibly apparent in perhaps the most gorgeously animated character, Tempest Shadow. The way her snout and mouth moves really gives the sense of her head having depth. The angles at which she is shown intentionally give off a look of arrogance and superiority. She was pulled off incredibly well, much more so than even the main characters, I'd say. One of the reasons for this, I think, has to do with their eyes. Tempest's eyes are simple and fierce, while the other ponies had this weird glitter effect, and their specularity for some reason had some opacity and glow to it. I really don't like the opacity effect, it just looks kind of strange to me, and put together, these effects on the pony eyes kind of are overdone and make them look more like glittery toys, ha ha ha, rather than characters full of personality, like in the show proper. I altered one of these screenshots a bit to show the difference. What do you think? Some of the backgrounds and 3D elements were fine, while some were not. Bit of a mixed bag there. I personally didn't like how Canterlot was portrayed. In the show, it's intricate and fairly sophisticated looking. A palette of whites, golds, and purples really accentuate the royal splendor of the whole thing. In the movie, however, it felt like there was a thin layer of pink over everything, which made it look more like a cheap toy set, yeah, I know, ha ha ha, than a royal city. Many of the other locations looked great though, especially the Hippogriff and Sea Pony areas. As for the story, well, I wasn't really impressed at all. I feel like the season finales have had better plots, and for a big, bombastic movie release, the staff played it super safe, which just ended up making the whole thing rather boring. I mean, I was honestly kind of expecting that since the movie is meant for a much wider audience, but it still disappointed me. I guess it just felt like nothing really significant happened, besides the discovery of the Sea Ponies, I guess. Here's my question. How in the world has the Storm King been able to take over so many territories bordering Equestria, in fact, a desert area that's less than a day away from Canterlot somehow, and yet it's like the princesses had no idea this was happening? Like, instead of fighting back against the dictator menace, they throw a friendship festival? What? Okay, but like, imagine how cool it would have been if the movie was about all of the princesses fighting against the Storm King's influence, while the main six are sent on a mission to gather allies in the fight, specifically to the Hippogriff Kingdom. There, they discover that the kingdom has already been subdued by the Storm King, yada yada yada. Then maybe, I don't know, the princesses don't have to be made completely useless yet again. It's literally shown and made a plot point in the movie that the princesses are powerful. Look at how the Storm King reacts to gaining their magic. But they are never shown to be powerful. Once again, they're just imprisoned like particularly incompetent damsels in distress, while their youngest member goes off to save them yet again. I was forgiving of this maybe the first couple of times, but now I am utterly sick of it. You have a group of potentially incredibly interesting characters, but then you mix that with a staff who apparently just can't figure out how to use them properly. There are fanfic writers who have done things with the princesses that are vastly superior to the show and movie. Sigh. Celestia, Luna, and Cadence don't have to be boring characters. They really, really don't. You just gotta be willing to put forth the effort to develop them. Maybe Hasbro isn't really allowing it, I don't know. Whatever. Of course, then I realize I'm complaining about a sparkly pony movie meant to sell toys, and I begin to rein in my irrational anger. Alright, so on to the main six. The main six were just boring in this movie. The whole thing attempts to introduce and develop so many new characters that the main characters are completely shallow, even when development with them is attempted. Take Rarity, for example. When she helps Capper, it's meant to be seen as a heartfelt moment of generosity. It sort of works, but the only one who really gets development is Capper. We hardly actually see Rarity or her reactions. Rainbow Dash's moments are particularly cringeworthy, with the attempt to use the word awesome a billion times, even in song form. Awesome As I Wanna Be was a better song in my opinion, but also probably made me sick of hearing Rainbow Dash say awesome ever again. Applejack and Flutters were drastically underused, and Pinkie ranged from absurdly annoying to fairly funny, which isn't too far from how she is in the show, really. If the point of the movie is to introduce the new audience to the main six, it makes them all look like super shallow archetypes with the depth of cardboard. If this was my first introduction to these characters, Twilight is probably the only one I would have found intriguing. The rest are literally like annoying little puppies that follow her around and spew funny lines as the adventure goes on. Twilight is the only one that seems to really understand the weight of the situation or really do anything of importance. To improve this problem, I probably would have perhaps cut out Capper's segments altogether and simply had the little bird pirate crew be the ones to take the main six and potentially almost sell them out in the dilapidated city. Before it's revealed that the bird pirates are going to betray them, perhaps have the main six start to really build relationships with them. There are quite a few members of the pirate crew, so you could really have them sort of talking with each other and building relationships. Not just one pony, but all of the ponies put effort into convincing the bird pirates to work with them. You start to see what makes each main six character interesting. Eventually, maybe they actually help out the pirates in repairing their broken pirate ship, and they all take flight towards the hippogriffs. Make sure to also have scenes where members of the main six are talking to one another in private, not only interacting with Twilight. If all we see of them is the way they interact with Twilight, we can only really see them through Twilight and not as themselves. They have to be their own characters, not obnoxious sidekicks. Focusing on redeeming the pirate crew and staying with this crew for most of the movie gives actual solid development to both the main six and the crew. Capper is not needed. Captain Solano would have served as a perfectly fine trickster character. She is a pirate, after all. Taking out Capper would also allow for potential backstory fodder for Solano, who barely had any development whatsoever. Her pirate crew might have been the most forgettable characters and unneeded, which they shouldn't be. Maybe some cool pirate shanties could be snuck in there instead of boring pop songs, with the whole "it's awesome dudes" attitude in there. Rainbow Dash, you were sure flanderized in this movie. Moving on to the Sea Ponies, I wasn't a huge fan of their personalities, though that's more of a subjective thing. I also have a very few small problems with their designs, but the main six Sea Ponies were very cute. As for Twilight's big mistake moment, I kinda like it, yet don't. It helps show how incredibly desperate she was, and is a surprisingly interesting twist, but it still feels a little off considering all that she's learned about friendship. I still like the idea though, it's a cool concept. Tempest's song was great. The only part I didn't like was the start, since it didn't mesh well with the serious, somber tone of the scene to suddenly have the villain break out into song, in my opinion. The best part was the fairly touching integration of her backstory. She's probably my favorite new character introduced in the movie. The reveal of her ridiculous real name and how it explains her color scheme was particularly amusing. The whole situation with the Storm King not giving her her horn back as a forced way to get her to turn good was though. He was already a very non-threatening and underutilized villain as it was. Having him stupidly betray his most powerful and competent ally just like that is just more stupid villain logic. How could he not see a betrayal coming when the whole reason she joined up with him was because of her broken horn? Just restore her magic and get on with your new rule. Maybe they could have it where he tries and then realizes it isn't possible. Or she does gain her magic and her horn back and finds another reason to be redeemed. Like, I don't know, realizing that gaining her horn back simply isn't as grand as she thought it would be. Her powers are, in fact, rather untrained and unrefined, so she can barely even do what she could as a filly. What she was looking for wasn't worth what she's done to her people. She isn't fulfilled. In one moment, she spots Twilight sitting afraid in the cage. Despite having both a horn and wings, this alicorn princess is defeated. She's in utter despair. And why is this? Why is she so terrified? It is because she is completely alone. Her eyes widening, Tempest realizes that what she was looking for, what she really needed, wasn't her horn. It was to be loved. To once again have ponies who could truly care for her. This was Princess Twilight's strength after all. Perhaps it could be what Tempest needed too. She had pushed herself away from others because she had thought her lack of magic made her worthless. In reality, it was her lack of self-worth that made her that way. And as she gazes out onto the city of Canterlot below, she sees Twilight's friends coming to rescue her despite overwhelming odds. Their love for their friend is so strong that they would battle through the Storm King's hordes to rescue her. A strange, longing feeling engulfs Tempest's heart. If only she could have ponies who cared so much for her. With a start, she realizes that the main 6 in Pirate Band are losing the battle. The soldiers are overcoming them, chains clanking as they begin to subdue the rebellious ponies. The Storm King is still unawares of the whole thing, distracted by the power he now wields. Tempest gazes at Twilight's cage, her expression growing firm as she realizes what she must do. And there you have it. That's my own sort of rewrite of Tempest's redemption. It could definitely still be altered a bit, but that's kind of what I was able to come up with. In any case, those were my biggest thoughts regarding the MLP movie. I'm sorry if I came off as very negative. I didn't think the movie was bad. It was just so standardly silly kids movie that it left a bad taste in my mouth. I want kids' entertainment to become better and more enjoyable for everyone. I really want more shows that families can watch together. More stuff like maybe Stranger Things, Gravity Falls, Amazing World of Gumball, Over the Garden Wall, etc. As such, I hold the standard I have for other family entertainment to MLP as well. If Hasbro is trying to expand their audience with their new toy lines, then they should damn well start expanding the appeal of an already good show and movie, starting by bumping up the quality and writing of the plot. This is Inkros, and I'll see you in the next video. If you would like to see more artwork like this, feel free to check out my DeviantArt page, my Twitter, and my ArtStation profile. Links to all these will be in the description. You can also support more videos like this on Patreon. Patreon subscribers who donate over $5 will be allowed to join my Patreon Discord, which is really fun, and we've been having a lot of fun talking about random stuff on there, so it's been pretty nice. The link to this is also in the description as well. I am currently doing fun little streams on Twitch as well as YouTube. On Wednesdays at about 5 CST, I'm doing Persona 5 streams on Twitch, and I might also be starting to do Destiny 2 streams on Fridays at 5. And as you guys might also have been seeing, I do commission streams on Saturdays at 5 as well. Definitely take a look out for those. I'll put a link to my Twitch in the description. And last but not least, make sure to check out the Dragon Queen Redbubble page.